Well, hello everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of Movie Passion. And yeah, in today's video, I won't review a movie, but a Netflix series instead. So, yeah, in today's video, I'm going to take a closer look at Wednesday. And in case you are worried about spoilers or something like that, there are going to be huge spoilers, but only at the end of this video, where I also talk about all the events that happen in the final episode. So, yeah, I won't spoil without a warning. So, yeah, the first thing is many people think, oh, it's a Netflix series directed by Tim Burton. But apparently, he only directed 4 of those 8 episodes. So it's not entirely directed by Tim Burton. So, what is Wednesday all about? Well, Wednesday Addams, as we all know, is kind of like an outcast. And after not her son, her brother Poxley got bullied, she decided to take action and take revenge or pick revenge on those bullies by setting loose a bunch of piranhas in a swimming pool where one of those bullies apparently lost one of his testicles. Then her parents decided to send her to a special academy specifically for outcasts, and this is, of course, the Nevermore Academy, named after the very famous quote of probably the most famous short story by Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven. And yeah, Nevermore is basically more than just a school or an academy for outcasts. I mean, when you think about outcasts, you think about, people like Wednesday, ordinary humans. But apparently, there aren't just humans, there are also sirens and vampires and werewolves. So, yeah, it's like more than just ordinary human people that just don't fit in. And yeah, Wednesday is supposed to live in one room with Enid. And even though you might think, okay, she definitely doesn't look like an outcast, I mean, they always make it look as if Wednesday is the outcast. But actually, Enid is also an outcast just as much as Wednesday, because Enid is a werewolf, but she definitely doesn't look like any of the other werewolves. I mean, they usually have like long and curly dark hair and stuff like that, but Enid is like the complete opposite, and she is also an outcast because she has not wolfed out yet. So I don't know if wolfing out is kind of like a werewolf term for hitting puberty, but wolfing out is basically the ability to actually turn into a werewolf during the full moon, which is something that she apparently hasn't achieved or accomplished yet. So Wednesday doesn't really like it at Nevermore for whatever reason. I mean, I don't understand why she doesn't want to be at Nevermore, because doesn't it seem like the perfect place for her? I mean, she doesn't like normal people. I mean, she doesn't like people in general, but she especially doesn't like ordinary people. So, why does she still feel like an outcast in a school full of outcasts? I mean, she apparently also loves Edgar Allan Poe. So, why what is her problem with Nevermore? Maybe it's just because her mother also used to be at Nevermore, and she still thinks that Morticia wants to turn Wednesday into like a version of herself. But yeah, it's something that I never really understood, why she has such a problem, or why she dislikes the idea of staying at a school specifically for outcasts. So yeah, during her stay, a lot of weird things happen, and apparently there is like a creature or a monster in the woods that is killing people. But as far as I know, the monster never killed anybody from Nevermore until Wednesday arrives. So the monster basically always just killed ordinary people, ordinary hikers. But yeah, ever since Wednesday arrived, people that are students at Nevermore also become victims of this monster. And yeah, so there we have Sheriff Donovan, who is pretty sure that all those murders are kind of linked to Nevermore, but he just can't prove it yet. And during the entire season, Wednesday is basically trying to figure out what this monster is or who this monster is and who could possibly know something about this monster. So, yeah, it's kind of like a crime mystery kind of thing. Um, but then there is also the thing that Wednesday is apparently having a lot of visions. So sometimes when she is touching objects or people, she has those visions of either events that happened in the past or events that are going to happen in the future. But sometimes her visions are like so clear that it's almost as if she traveled back in time in order to be part of a certain event. Like, for example, the burning of all the outcasts by Joseph Crackstone. And yeah, it's a nice show, but there are definitely some things that I do have to criticize. So, the first thing that I have to criticize is definitely this weird poke up. Now, the poke up is basically kind of like a race, or I don't know if I can call it catch the flag. I mean, yes, they have to basically catch a flag, but it's also kind of like a race. So they have to use canoes to get to the flag, pick up the flag, and then come back and be the first ones to cross the finish line. Now, the thing that I really don't understand about this weird poke up is, first of all, why aren't there any rules? Why are they allowed to cheat? I mean, in what way is this supposed to be helpful? I don't understand this. It just doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. Um, but not only that, but there is also the fact that they are actually allowed to use lethal weapons. What? I mean, people already talked about various different things or similar things when it comes to Harry Potter and Hogwarts. You know, children or kids being turned into animals, or Quidditch is also like a very dangerous sport, apparently. And then there's also monsters like a three-headed dog that could actually kill and eat kids and all those kinds of things. So, for some reason, child safety is never really a thing in those kinds of schools or academies or whatever. But being able to use lethal weapons and actually trying to kill one another, that is a new level. And I really don't understand the concept behind it because, yeah, it is basically kind of like a smaller version of Death Race in a way. And it just doesn't really make sense. And I really wonder, do people that hurt one another during this poke up, do they get expelled or punished, or does anything happen to them? Are there any consequences for actually hurting or maybe even killing somebody? I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense. Not to mention the fact that this episode and the whole thing with the Poe basically already tells you that they don't really think about the laws of physics so much, because how should all the weapons and all the mechanics fit into those canoes? How should this be possible? Um, yeah, it really doesn't make sense. And it becomes even more crazy and frustrating when you think about the fact that there is the possibility that Wednesday could have died during this Poe. I mean, she could have been decapitated during this Poe. And mild spoiler, in the last episode, Wednesday actually saves Nevermore. Now imagine she would have been killed during this stupid Poe. It basically means that Nevermore would have been lost. So hopefully after the events of the first season and after Wednesday actually saved Nevermore, I hope that they kind of start to rethink the rules or the concept of this weird Poe. So now let's talk about some of the Addams Family related Easter eggs, because, this is like an Addams Family spin off. So, for example, there is the thing that I don't know if it's the front of the academy, but there is this one part of the Nevermore Academy that basically looks pretty similar to the Addams Family mansion. Then there is this one scene where Wednesday is ringing the bell, and then Tyler comes out and he says, "You rang," which is basically like the famous quote that the Butler Lurch always used to say in the 1964 TV series. Then there is, of course, the famous finger snap from the original Addams Family theme song that opens the secret passage to the secret library. And yeah, then there's also the thing that Wednesday's and Enid's room is located at Ophelia Hall. And in the original TV series, Ophelia was actually the name of Morticia's sister. I would say the biggest Easter egg, if you can even call it an Easter egg, or basically, I don't know if it's an Easter egg or a cameo or whatever, but it definitely has to be Christina Ricci as Marilyn Thornhill, because Christina Ricci used to play Wednesday Addams in the two Addams Family movies. I know there were 3 Addams Family movies, but she only played Wednesday Addams in the first 2 movies. So in the end, I can say it's a really nice and well-made Netflix series, and I can only highly recommend this series. It's dark, it's funny, it's sometimes a little bit gruesome, with all the various different body parts and things like that. So yeah, I would say go ahead and watch it. You definitely won't regret it. So, but at this point, I would say let's start let's talk about the final episode. So from here on there are of course going to be huge spoilers. So, yeah, if you haven't watched the series yet, go and watch it and then maybe come back, because there are a lot of things that I do have to say about the final episode. So, if you have already watched the final episode, you probably already know by now the monster that is killing all the people is a Hyde, which is kind of like, well, I don't know how you can actually describe it, but it is a person that turns into this monster. So basically, kind of like a werewolf. And yes, at this point, you probably already know that Tyler is this monster. And I basically already suspected this since we first saw the monster, mainly because of the hair. I mean, there was no other character in the entire series with a hair that would fit this monster. So Tyler was the only person with the same, kind of like roughly the same hairdo. But there was one thing that always stopped me from believing that it could be Tyler, and it was the clothes. I mean, we know that when this person transforms into this monster, the clothes is being ripped apart. But there's this one scene where we can see Tyler shortly after this monster tried to attack Wednesday and Enid. So we can see him laying there with his clothes and with those scratches across his chest. So at this point, I'm really starting to wonder what happened. Should we believe that he had some kind of spare clothes laying around, or should we believe that he got undressed before he turned into this monster? I don't know, but it really doesn't really make sense. But like I already mentioned before, when it comes to the Poe we could see that they don't really think about the laws of physics. You know, having all those mechanical weapons in those little canoes already was a thing that didn't really make sense. And so does the thing with the clothes. And yeah, then there is also the thing that Enid also turns into a werewolf finally, and her clothes is also being totally ripped apart. So yeah, when she turns back into a human, she's basically fully naked, which is also the reason why they decided to only show her arm instead of her entire body. But when she returns to Nevermore, for some reason she has a jacket or a coat. Where does this jacket or this coat come from? Whose coat is this? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. So for some reason, clothes seems to just randomly appear whenever somebody needs clothes. So yeah, this is something that I really don't understand. What I also don't understand is why does Wednesday has to face Crackstone almost alone? Yes, there is also Bianca who makes a brief appearance, and at the end, there is also Eugene with his bees, but they are basically attacking Miss Thornhill, but not Crackstone, because Joseph Crackstone has already been defeated at this point. Um, but yeah, you have this is something that I don't understand. You have a school, not just a school full of outcasts, but a school full of sirens that can actually manipulate people. You have vampires, you have werewolves, you have people that can turn into monsters, into werewolves. But for some reason, they are all just running away, and Wednesday has to face Joseph Crackstone pretty much all by herself. Why? I ask you. Why? It just doesn't make sense. If they all would have stayed at this university or at the school, if they would have like combined their forces, how should Crackstone be able to defeat all of them? I mean, Wednesday managed to defeat Crackstone in the end, but it would have been even a lot easier if they would have all stayed together, don't you think? So, yeah, it's something that really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I know that you needed, or I know that they needed like this epic battle or this epic showdown. And yes, Wednesday is kind of like the main character. Of course, she's the one that has to save the day. But yeah, it really doesn't make sense. I mean, seriously, it doesn't make sense. So that's basically this. So like the final battle and the Poe-Cup. Those are the only two things that I really don't understand and I really don't like about this series, because yeah, it just doesn't really make sense. So yeah, that's it. I'm pretty sure there is a lot more stuff to talk about, like the song that Wednesday played on her cello, which was basically the song Red Door. Is this song actually called Red Door? But yeah, it's a song from the Rolling Stones. I see a red door and I want to paint it black. But it's a song that we could also hear in the official trailer, so people probably already know about that. Maybe I should also mention the famous dance scene of Wednesday. Yeah, there is also the fact that not only did she come up with this dance all by herself, but there was also the fact that she was apparently COVID positive during this scene, which is something that many people have already criticized. And I don't really know whose fault it actually is, if it was MGM that kind of quote unquote forced her to do this scene, even though they didn't really know for sure if she was positive or not. But yeah, so there is this thing. But yeah, there are probably a lot of other things that I could talk about, and I'm pretty sure there were a lot of other Easter eggs that I probably missed. But, in the end, I don't want to talk about all the various different events, and yeah, it just doesn't make sense. The video would go on for way too long and it just wouldn't make sense. And I also want you to watch the show and enjoy the show and be pleasantly surprised by certain things. So, yeah, I just didn't want to go too much into detail because, yeah, it could spoil the surprise sometimes. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Please check out my channel, check out my other episodes of Movie Passion, or my mini disc videos, or all of my other videos. There's a lot of random stuff on my channel, and I'm pretty sure you will find something that you like. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next one. Bye.